Hello everyone, Iron Pizza 73 here, and today is a challenge that is significantly different than what I ever have or probably will do in this channel. About 2 years ago, I watched a video from a YouTuber named Backlogs on my recommended about if you could beat XCOM with a single soldier. He concluded you couldn't, but I wasn't so convinced. In fact, I was confident this was nowhere near the potential of a single soldier. So I got a little stupid. Much like Backlogs' video, which I will continue to mention the differences between our runs as this goes, I will be using mostly the same rule set. That rule set being, only one soldier may be intentionally deployed on a mission. Game forced soldiers are disallowed from quote-unquote aggressive actions, meaning I can only use them for movement or hunkering down. Backlogs disallowed himself from using saves except between missions. Before I explain this rule change, let me explain a bit why this for the most part didn't matter for him. See, XCOM lies. XCOM actually uses a seeding to determine RNG. A good example of seeded RNG is Minecraft, or more relevant to my channel, Terraria. When you make a new world in Terraria, a seed is generated. This seed predefines all locations for which side of the dungeon or jungle is on, caves, and even down to the chests, their contents, and the individual blocks for the world. XCOM does something similar. During combat, every action has a sort of seed. If I shoot on a 50%, that doesn't actually mean there's a 50% chance every time. That means that specific shot had a 50% chance of being designated a hit, and if I reload the save, it will always be the same outcome. This does get changed by taking different actions on turns or in different orders, but otherwise it stays constant. To get to the rule change, I enabled the option Save Scum in the second wave. This means the seed is rerolled every time I reload the game through a save. Now I know somebody's gonna go, isn't that cheating? He didn't do that, so he couldn't have perfect RNG. Sure, I guess you could say that, but I also unfortunately don't have 500 trillion years to be able to reload missions for the perfect seed combinations. The question was whether or not this was possible, not whether or not I could live forever. If I can reload the game and get by the mission, I could have retried the mission until I got that exact string of seeds needed to win the mission. Finally, no cheating or intentionally caused exploits, and I'll clarify this much later into the run. Additionally, I will be playing with a few second wave options. These are primarily helpful additions that help my RNG on my end. I'm sure they aren't required realistically, they just help the challenge be a little less annoying. They are as follows. Hidden potential, absolutely critical, not created equally, and aiming angles. Now that we have clarified our rule set, we hop into the first mission. As per Backlogs' rules, this will be the only time I can control a full team, and therefore not a mission I really care about. It took me a few game reloads to get the unit I wanted, but eventually we landed on Dominique Petit, an assault class hailing from France, and probably the only viable class on Impossible. This class just has such a high potential and is able to deal with just about anything thrown at it, especially when you have 84 aim base. Unfortunately, due to this class's crippling aim penalties at long range, this will be a struggle early game as opposed to something like the sniper class. Note that while using the assault gun is an option, it only has a 2 to 4 damage range, which could potentially cause problems as mind-melded sectoids have a base 5 health, and it is not always possible to hit the sectoid melding the other. Additionally, we have better odds to kill weaker aliens with the shotgun than the rifle due to the minimum damage being 1 point higher. Now is where the real game begins. With one soldier, these next missions are absolute hell. Miss a shot? Dead. Bad cover angle? Dead. Failing to account for the 3 groups of aliens appearing out of literally nowhere just to fuck you in the ass? Dead. You have to play these missions near perfectly, and that is why I allow save scumming. The first mission choice I make is for more engineers. Without 20 engineers, I can't make satellites, and on high difficulties like Impossible, it is imperative to make at least 2 satellites per month if possible. Without said production, you fall behind fast and end up losing due to the unavoidable panic in countries with abductions. My immediate focus is on beam weaponry and then into meld recombination. The ability to deal as much damage as fast as possible is imperative to winning the early game, and I want a laser rifle before the first terror missions, or else I'll be in trouble big time. We'll get to the terror mission in a moment, but first let's talk about Month 2. Month 2 is where Seekers appear, and they are the biggest hurdle for this challenge. Seekers, provided you have no protection against strangling, are impossible to deal with as they just instantly kill you. As a sniper, you can use a battle scanner, and that's that, but with assault, you are hard-pressed to deal with them. I'm sure they were meant to uncloak eventually, but they don't, so tough luck waiting them out. There's a couple notable options for dealing with Seekers, and I'll mention all 3 before explaining the problems. Our 3 options are bioelectric skin, Titan armor, and chitin plating. For bioelectric skin, this sounds very appetizing. It's cheap, and the only problem would be for Month 2. It additionally gives us a couple other nifty features that could be helpful, like knowing the placement of out-of-sight aliens. But this is thrown in the trash because not only does it require meld, which we have very limited amounts of due to time constraints, but more importantly would take up the slot we have on our skin augmentation, which we need for a much more important augment that without, this would be more than impossible. Additionally, there's a trick with said skin augment, mimetic skin, that lets you achieve a similar, if not better version of the sight that I'll cover later when it's more relevant. The reason Titan armor isn't a viable option should be obvious enough when you take a look at the tech tree requirement. Carapace armor, UFO power source, Illyrium, yeah, there's no way that is happening right now. Finally, is chitin rip plating. All this requires is 5 chrysalids. This is easily our best option, as our biggest sacrifice is losing the scope, which we can gain back once we research the Foundry project for an additional slot. For Month 2, I was very lucky with my rolls for abductions, as I had 0 Seekers on them, despite the odds being stacked against my favor. I'm not sure if the contents are decided on month start or what, but regardless, I didn't have any and I was willing to take that. What I wasn't very lucky with, however, was the council mission, bomb disposal. This is easily the worst mission type for a council mission in this challenge, but I am no coward and I will take this head on. Yeah, it took me like 6 hours and an entirely new map. Trust me when I say this, but bomb disposals are torture no matter what in this. The timer is so short, you have to move every turn, and once the bomb deactivates, the game shoves 6 to 7 thin men in your face. It is possible despite this, and after some frustrating attempts with a lot of RNG rolls, I inevitably find the luck I'm looking for, and am left victorious. By this point, let me introduce what exactly I've been speccing into in the ability tree. For you experienced veterans in XCOM, these choices may not surprise you, but for the people watching that maybe aren't familiar with XCOM, let me run them down. For our first choice, we could have aggression or tactical sense. While aggression sounds nice with the extra critical chance, tactical sense will ultimately give us more options than the later game, as it is always active and confers to any enemy shot regardless of cover. Our second choice is between close and personal and lightning reflexes. While I recommend lightning reflexes on standard play, close and personal will be the better choice for us by far. With the ability to take a free regular shot at anything within 4 tiles, this will effectively double our damage output, assuming something is close by to us. Our third choice is between flush and rapid fire. Flush is so niche that it isn't even hardly used on regular assaults, especially since rapid fire is almost always a straight damage increase and therefore our choice. The -15 to aim rarely makes a difference, and even if it does, oftentimes you can close the gap to make it worthwhile. I don't think I need to explain why an extra free shot regardless of action points is more important than a +1 critical damage for enemies in sight, so we will take Close Combat Specialist tier and move on to our final choice at Colonel. This choice is debatable. The plus 50% damage to crits when using Run and Gun can allow some extreme damage output when Run and Gun is up or being used, which in this challenge is quite often, but I chose Resilience to synergize with Adaptive Bone Marrow to effectively nullify 1 or 2 low-tier aliens, as they use their pea shooters and fail to deal meaningful damage regardless of their position. Eventually, we reach the end of the month, and with that our first terrorist site mission. If you aren't aware of what you're doing, these missions can be rough, and even knowing what to do, this first one is pretty tough. With limited firepower and no mimetic skin, our options are limited. Our biggest concern besides the overwhelming level of aliens is chrysalids. These guys can wreck our day as we need 2 shots to take them out consistently, which is both ammo and wasted turns on one enemy. Our best bet is to kite them in order to deal with the floaters, but that can often lead us into a bad position as chrysalids can move almost the entire length of our sprint. Additionally, they can spawn zombies off of civilians, which will in turn become more chrysalids and eventually overwhelm us, as we will only have time to save about 1 to 3 civilians realistically before things get too chaotic. Although overwhelming with the amount of chrysalids, this zombie mechanic actually helps us too. We need 5 chrysalid corpses, and for some reason it seems despite the wiki saying otherwise, killing these newly spawned chrysalids does actually give us corpses. Additionally, taking damage doesn't concern me much, as when you reach the Terror mission, there is an extremely high chance there won't be an induction after it. After the Terror mission, I'm able to instantly gain access to chitin plating, which will make the next few months open to resource gathering and catching up on technology. I finish precision lasers and then work on arc thrower. In month 3, we get mutons in most missions, which allows us to go up to light plasma technology. I'm using this to springboard up to alloy cannon and then titan armor afterwards. Alongside this, I make sure to immediately research and grab mimetic skin, which is the single best upgrade in this entire challenge, allowing me to stealthily take out enemies and get the jump on new squads. This ability will be crucial to beating the challenge, and without it there is zero chance that this would ever work without an unrealistic level of RNG. I want all of this before the alien base assault, as otherwise it and the preceding missions will be near impossible, if not straight up. Now before I continue, let me explain that mechanic I was talking about with seeing aliens out of sight. When you first encounter an alien, the game notes that, and any seen aliens become alert out of some specific exceptions. Mimetic skin isn't actually an exception to this rule. All mimetic skin does is when you are cloaked, enemies cannot target you with anything. Now when an alien is active and moves out of vision, they are still partially visible, and you can even watch where they go. For some reason, mimetic skin doesn't break this ever, and you can instead watch the aliens move anywhere around the map out of vision. This works on any number of squads so long that you have seen them before. This is one of those issues that I modified the no cheating rule for, since it isn't avoidable. Speaking of unavoidable issues, enemies occasionally, but especially chrysalids, can break if you reload a save, and oftentimes will never be able to target you. I assume this is a bug as well with mimetic skin that routes from a similar issue of the sight bug, and is additionally unavoidable. Felt I should come clean about that one. I'll briefly mention Exalt, and then leave them off as soon as I mention them. I ignored them. They're not required, hardly do damage outside of panic, which they rarely cause, and I can stall them very easily. All I have to do is spend a little bit of cash, and then recruit every week or so, and they'll leave me alone. Why am I skipping them? Because they are some of the most grueling missions. The first time I did this challenge, I didn't skip Exalt, and after one mission, I was already done with them. I had a data recovery mission early into month 3 when I still only had laser weaponry, and my god, that was terrible. I easily spent 15 hours just on that mission, reloading over and over and over and over again, only to get half the mission credit, as it was mathematically impossible for me to protect the encoder with the exalt waves and map I had. Covert extraction isn't nearly as bad, but it still takes a while, and since they aren't too much of a threat, I couldn't be bothered to do them. Now that we have access to the premium selection and gear and research, including our second slot, which means that we aren't stuck with just a scope and can have chitin or arc thrower, it is time to assault the alien base. The alien base assault contains 22 to 28 aliens depending on difficulty. Despite the seemingly high count of aliens, this mission is for the most part a pushover. The hardest room is the central one that contained a few heavy floaters at the end of it. With mimetic skin, any singular pod of aliens can be trivialized for the most part, outside of heavier elite squads. The most important part of this mission comes at the very end, with capturing the sectoid commander for 3 psionic credit. Luckily, the commander plays nice and makes this job easy for me, so this mission goes through for the most part difficulty free. Right after this, I am already preparing my interceptors to be able to take down the Overseer ship by getting firestorms and EMP cannons. Additionally, I spend a ton of cash on extra Titan armor and make sure to get enough recruits to fill up the cap for the next mission. This next mission will be a make or break for this challenge, and I will either come out of it victorious and officially break past the barrier that Backlobs found himself at, or return defeated and incapable of proving anything. Here goes. The base defense mission houses hordes of aliens of various difficulties and could potentially be heavily RNG based as to both what spawns and how much. This specific layout I got of alien spawns I was very lucky with. In my previous attempt, I got hammered with tons and tons of mechtoids and other extremely powerful aliens, which ultimately left me softlock. How exactly does one softlock in XCOM? Can't you just restart and reload missions? Yes and no. There are 2 ways to truly softlock yourself in XCOM. Too many saves or too many reloads. Too many saves tends to frag the saving process in some way, and too many reloads corrupts them. This is ultimately why I've been using a quick save over regular saving for the most part, but that won't stop the reloading being a problem in this mission. For the most part, neither of these matter, but because of this mission is so damn specific and requires so much perfect RNG, you run into the problem here more than anything else. So how did I beat this mission? Well, the first step is to realize that the only thing that matters is your one soldier surviving. Any other soldier should be used as cannon fodder and shouldn't be expected to survive. This mission is a grueling one and originally took me probably about 10 hours to beat. Once. In which I ran into the softlock problem after having to replay it due to a terror mission happening a few hours after its completion, while at my last panic meter. The goal for the first few turns is to stay inside the main circle as long as possible and clear out as many enemies as I can that can shoot up. Berserkers and chrysalids I basically ignore, and commanders are more of a nuisance than a problem. I use my units as guards to stop enemies from using ladders, and instead force them to shoot at disadvantageous positions and limit where they can go. Due to the high rapid density spawn rate and my limited firepower, I need to avoid triggering as many aliens as possible. All aliens spawn in active, but they don't always immediately aggro if you don't have them in vision, similar to that of a freshly dropped Thinman in a council mission. Eventually, we reach the mid-stages of this mission. This is where we are stuck cleaning the flying spawns up across the map, and are mostly left with heavy hitters down below that cannot reach the upper areas. At this point, we move to the back section where the mech bay is, but instead of going into the slaughterhouse that is said mech bay, we hang out at the upper portion on the edge in order to pick off cyberdiscs and drones one by one. This is tedious, but a required evil in order to beat this. After every kill, we always want to activate our mimetic skin before reloading so as to not get caught off guard by another enemy. Once we have killed the flying units, we have reached the end stage of this mission. which is clearing out the large cluster of mechtoids that are all stuck waiting for us. This is by far the most tedious part and what ultimately destroyed my previous save, as it takes significantly longer than the first parts. The mechtoids being incapable of reaching us have all grouped together, and since they're the same unit with the same movement range, will be for the most part glued together. The mechtoids being incapable of reaching us have all grouped together, and since they're the same unit with the same movement range, will be for the most part glued together. We have to find just the right angles that we can take fights one-on-one with them. Even despite this being significantly better spawn RNG and more optimized play, my game is slowing down on reloading, which is a sign that this is taking too long. And that's putting a timer on me, as not much longer and my game will corrupt again. Fortunately, before that happens, the final mechtoid falls and wait, it's not over? Somehow, some way, a single drone managed to not wander out this entire time and fight me. Anyways, we kill it, and that is the single hardest mission in the entire game completed. Take that, Battleclogs. Now it's time for the final two missions, and ironically, some of the easiest. The Overseer's ship main threats are the Sectopod and the Ethereal. The Sectopod, boasting a high health pool, a % damage reduction, and the ability to shoot a heavy-hitting shot twice alongside a massive AoE sounds scary, and it is, but it's also really slow. This means that while it's likely I'll take damage, I'll also probably run it out enough to kill it. Additionally, it loves to use its AoE ability on impossible, which makes it ironically easier as it won't fire twice and we can just move away from the AoE. Note as well that now that we have the base defense mission over and we reach the XCOM base view, the reload bug has been reset and therefore we have no real concerns of reloading too often anymore. After a painfully long wait fighting a couple of elite mutant squads, we finally reach the Ethereal. The best and only way I've found to deal with this guy is to activate him and then run away so that its two mutants come out and I can take them out away from the Ethereal. After the mutants are dealt with, I deal with the Ethereal, capturing it, less because I need the credit and more because I can. Finally, we reach the Temple Ship Assault. This 6-room flagship is the final mission in the game, and we are more than prepared to take it on. This is the easiest mission in the run, easier than the damn intro mission where we had an entire squad, and that's all thanks to one thing: Rift. The first room of this mission houses a collection of 4 sectoids and 1 sectoid commander, which are shortly followed by 2 cyberdiscs and 3 drones. I first enter through the center on the left side of the door and attempt to kill the sectoid commander, who gets left at a single hit point due to missing my first rapid shot. However, it also runs away, and because of the angle, will never bother me. Also, I guess due to how the ship registers entering rooms, I have an extra couple of turns to take down the sectoids on the right. Now that the cyberdiscs have spawned, I begin a process of moving between doors and then rifting them. For some reason, the second cyberdisc explodes, dealing 3 damage on top of the one I took from a drone before, but I decide against reloading because all that matters is being able to tank 1 sectopod shot later on. After clearing the rest of the room, I move on to room 2. This houses 4 floaters, 1 heavy floater, and then later 3 chrysalids. The only enemy I care about is the heavy floater due to his high health pool, and everything else dies to a rift or a close combat specialist. After clearing the room of floaters, I rift the heavy floater and he ends up killing himself because he moves above the rift and then back into it, dealing twice the damage. The rest of this room is trivial, as chrysalids are incapable of attacking me, so long as I have ammo, because alloy cannon lets close combat specialists one-shot them. The 4th room contains 4 mutants, split into 2 squads, and a berserker in the center. I choose to take the right path for no specific reason, and after rifting the mutants, decide to use Mind Fray on the berserker to cripple its movement, as there is no other consistent way to kill it without taking damage. Somehow, this misses the first time, despite having 122 will, but the second try it works. Afterwards, all it takes is another rift, and we are on to the penultimate room and the final 7 kills of this challenge. The room is the hardest in the mission, but even still poses negligible threat compared to the base defense mission. Sporting 2 sectopods followed by 2 elite mutons after their death, this has easily been the most destructive firepower possible inside one area. Ultimately, my goal with the sectopods is to play hide and seek with Rift in order to whittle them down, and hopefully cause a chain reaction. This can cause trouble, as this means I'll need to dodge at least 2 sectopod shots and then move quickly away, as their massive AoE ability would otherwise kill me. Because of this forced movement, I'm typically uncloaked, and because they are also crazy maniacs who just shoot whatever, whenever, even when cloaked, I still have the potential of being shot or exposed. After a couple of games of cat and mouse with the mobile laser interceptor cats, I eventually kill one of them with rift damage, which causes a chain reaction and kills the other. Unfortunately, I take a hit though, which means from here on out, if I get hit, I'll die. To clear out the 2 elite mutons, I originally considered mind controlling one. However, I decided that breaks the spirit of the challenge of being a single soldier, and instead kill it with a long-range rapid fire. And then the other muton falls shortly, but not before using a grenade, which is the one thing I can tank from the mutons on 6 health. Finally, we reach the 6th chamber, the room containing the Uber Ethereal, along with 2 elite mutons and 2 ethereals. My first turn, I run straight to the center of the room, out of vision from every single enemy. This is where I plan to play around in order to kill the 2 elite mutons before moving on to the Uber Ethereal. Unfortunately, this spot only has one safe zone, and actually causes me to die as a result due to the elite muton repositioning, breaking my cloaking due to the close combat specialist reaction shot. Afterwards, I try to rift the other elite muton to death, but the Uber Ethereal has such a high aim stat, I'm about to give up and try a different idea. That is, until for some reason, when I use Rift, it doesn't end my turn. I have no clue why this is, nor did I notice this when actually playing, as I was running on autopilot at the time, and saw I could act, so I assumed the Uber Ethereal missed. Regardless of this, I'm not really interested in testing the room out a ton to kill one enemy that I'm very certain I could kill, if I did so without the bug, and it wasn't intentional anyways. With the 2 mutons out of the way, I head over to the Uber Ethereal's podium and get as close as I can to the ramp ends. Well, that certainly is an intriguing discovery. What's intriguing? Well, nothing can see me. And since the Uber Ethereal didn't properly activate, none of them will ever move, allowing me to, with just the right angle, send a rift through the wall and hit the Uber Ethereal's feet. With a few turns of doing this cycle of rifting and then skipping 4 turns, we win. Challenge complete. Turns out that with enough dedication and determination, you really can do just about anything in this game. This challenge has been on the list of mine for about 2 years, and over the course of about 100 hours, I finally completed it. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you, Backlogs, for both the inspiration and kind words about my successes. This has been Iron Pizza 73, and I will now turn it over to my past self to finish out this video. Thanks once again, guys. Shit. Oh my god, 2 fucking years. Oh my god, I'm pretty sure I have fucking recordings from like 2022 on the old file. This is my 2nd attempt. I'm sure I'm gonna mention that in the video, but this is my 2nd attempt. Call it cheating with save scumming, but holy shit. It's technically possible without save scumming anyways. That's what I showed here. All of my issues were RNG. If any of you psychopaths watching this video wants to try this out for yourself, here's your guide, I guess. Hello everyone, Future Iron Pizza 73 here, and sorry for dragging on this video any longer, but we are currently live right now on YouTube live streaming the no block breaking challenge, except this time I'm going to be doing it on Fargo's Eternity mode. God, this is a terrible idea.